Hi everyone, I'm Amber. There are a lot of rumors about me at school, and they are not the most pleasant for me. And all because I have the biggest butt. Do you think this is a good thing? Then listen to my story and you will draw your own conclusions. Do not forget to write your opinion in the comments, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Life at school is not easy. There are criteria by which you are evaluated. It's easier for guys. You're either a popular athlete or a quiet loser. But for girls, it's much more complicated. We are judged by character, appearance, even connections. There's a girl in my class. She's the principal's daughter. Everyone avoids her, constantly thinking before talking to her. Yes, maybe they're afraid of her, or they respect her, or they just don't want her to report everything to daddy. Sometimes I envy her because she has a quiet, measured life. I'd like one too, but that's not what I have. You'd be surprised if I told you that I'm popular too, but I'm not one of the 4 local rich people. Nature has given me something very big. The fact is that since birth, I have had a big butt. You will say that there are problems much worse than this. Considering that now many girls work out to try to achieve this, I would like to get rid of it. In general, it all started in childhood. My mother could not find any clothes that fit me because I stupidly couldn't fit into any pants. They got stuck on my buttocks. My mother had to buy pants several sizes larger, sew them at the waist, and shorten the length. She said it was funny, but it wasn't funny to me at all. For this reason, I wore skirts and dresses that there were no problems. I'm not even talking about the underwear that my mother bought for me as a teenager, but sometimes even the skirts didn't save me. My butt bulged out like a sail. I felt like a sheep, which is what they called me at school. The older I got, the more rumors were spread about me. Everyone stared at my butt, turned around to look at me. At those moments, I wanted to sink into the ground. When I was 13, I found a way to deal with this stress. I started eating. I ate everything I could find in the refrigerator at home, ate at school, and ate on the way to school. I especially wanted to eat in public when I was the center of attention. In general, after 2 years, I became even bigger. And all because the calories I ate went exactly where I didn't want them to go. At the age of 15, the school chairs were so small for me that 2 chairs were placed for me as an exception. It was so humiliating, but I couldn't just sit on one. My classmates took photos surreptitiously, distributed them, and discussed them in loud whispers. All I wanted was to be left alone. And only my mother said that this isn't bad, but on the contrary, it's a matter of pride. A woman's curves are very beautiful, she told me, but I didn't think so. A year later, when teenagers reached the peak of the hormonal jump, the guys began to get handsy. They could not pass by me just like that. They always tried to touch or pinch me. Then there were rumors that I had some kind of augmentation surgery, but that's nonsense. Allegedly, they wanted to make sure that it was natural, but no one ever asked me how I felt about it. It was hard carrying a load from behind. After a while, varicose veins appeared on my legs, and my mother and I had to treat them. And then I met a guy on the internet. His name was Clay. I didn't post a photo below the waist, and he liked me. He came to my city 2 months later, moved with his family, and came to my school. When I first met him in the hallway, he was so happy, but then he saw my whole body. He slowed down and then said hello, and he couldn't take his eyes off my lower body. Everyone noticed this and started laughing. I couldn't stand it and ran home. I asked my mother to transfer me to another school, but she wouldn't even listen. After all, it was the best school in the city. Then I asked for a reduction operation, but my mother was against me going under the knife. A day later, Clay came up to me again. He apologized 100 times and then offered to take a walk with me. At first, I didn't want to, but he talked me into it. During the walk, I learned that Clay is an amateur photographer. He invited me to participate in a photo session, and before I declined, he showed me some pictures of his work. They were not just normal girls. Some were full, some didn't have a leg, an arm, but they looked just amazing in the pictures. I take these photos so they can see themselves from the outside and understand how beautiful they really are. Just like you. You are more beautiful than any girl I know, and I want you to see it, he told me. And I agreed. We had a photo shoot out in nature. At first, I was embarrassed, but then I relaxed and it gave me confidence. The very next day, the pictures were displayed on his page on social networks. Clay has about 1 million followers, and they were all crazy about my photos. I woke up that day as a celebrity. At school, I was already perceived differently, treated with respect, and from that moment on, I never heard any mockery against me. A few photos changed my life so much. Clay let me know that I was beautiful, much more beautiful than anyone who had ever slandered me. I finally realized this and accepted myself. I was no longer shy about wearing pants. I was no longer shy about my body. I was even proud of it. So, a lot depends on our own perception. And if you doubt yourself, just look from the outside and love yourself. Then the people around you will never dare to offend you again, because you will start to respect and appreciate yourself. Do you agree with my opinion? If so, please write why. And if not, give at least one reason not to love yourself.
Broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cucumbers, lots of vitamins, fruits, no sugar in my life. That's what I've been surrounding myself with for the last year. Proper nutrition is boring. That's what they tell me. But you know what? I'll tell you now why I started eating like this and about the advantages that I realized from all this. Hi everyone, my name's Rick, and if you haven't met me just 2 years ago, you would have not recognized me because I was a fan of fatty junk food, sugary soda, and much more. To begin with, my family has never really adhered to the rules about food. My mother often cooked meat, she loved to fry it in butter, and we ate a lot of flour. Dad has a sweet tooth, so there were always sweets, pastries, and puddings in our house. All this brought pleasure. We bought food for 6 people every week, even though there were only 3 of us with our parents. Unbeknownst to us, we were getting fatter and fatter every year. Of course, my mother was worried about the weight, but there was nothing she could do about the whims. Besides, my father also liked fatter and more satisfying dishes. Whenever we had visitors, they would ask us why we ate few vegetables and almost no fruit, and we would just shrug our shoulders and eat on. At some point, I stopped getting into t shirts and wondered how sad it was. And then I met a girl who was older than me. She was already in college. Our acquaintance happened by chance. We met on the parking. On the way, we somehow got into a conversation and went to the market together for groceries. We had 2 identical cart baskets, only mine was filled to the brim with snacks, sweets, meats, and bread, and she had a few vegetables, dairy products, and fruit. She looked at my basket and looked at hers, and we laughed. I said, "Can you eat enough of this?" She said, "Yes, and it's also insanely delicious if you cook it right." I didn't believe her then. How can healthy food be delicious? We exchanged numbers and went our separate ways. In the evening, I came home, and when we sat down at the table, I asked my parents, "What if we changed the diet?" My dad gave me a sour look, and he said he wasn't going to spend the rest of his life on a diet that left me hungry, stressed out, and generally did more harm than good. My father firmly believed that food should be a pleasure, otherwise, we deprived ourselves of the last joy. Mom didn't say anything, and I ate quite a bit and went to my room. In the evening, I wrote to that girl. Her name was Amelia. I asked her how she came to eat this way, to which she replied that her mother had taught her. They eat like this almost all their lives. Then she sent me a photo of her mother, and I was surprised. They looked almost the same age. My mother's 50 years old, she said. She looks 30, and all this thanks to nutrition. No plastic surgery, Amelia wrote. Then she said that in medical school, they were first taught that we are what we eat. This meant that food builds our body, and the more useful it is, the healthier and more beautiful our body is. The last words stuck in my head. I went to the mirror and looked at myself. No abs, big sides, sagging breasts. Only 17 years old, and I already look like my father. Amelia threw me a few programs and applications, thanks to which you can easily count calories and make a menu. All I had to do was buy the right products. A week later, I returned to the market and bought a bunch of vegetables and other useful things for the first time. You should have seen the parents' face when they looked at the packages. My father started swearing. He said that I had wasted my money. He told me to return the food to its place, and then I could not restrain myself. I said I wanted to learn a healthier lifestyle with them. To be honest, I didn't expect Dad to be so outraged. We had a fight over the food, and he got very sick. Mom called an ambulance and Dad was taken away. When we arrived after the car, we were told that my father had high cholesterol, which is dangerous for the heart and blood vessels. Diet and exercise are necessary, the doctor said. Dad managed to rebel even there. He behaved like a child, and at that moment I firmly decided that it was time to change something in my life. While he was in the hospital, I made an audit in the kitchen, threw out all the harmful products, bought more healthy food, and in the evening, my mother and I made steamed cutlets together, boiled broccoli, and placed the bread with oatmeal loaves. To our surprise, the food was very tasty. The first few days were unusual, even felt hungry, but then the body began to cleanse and I began to sleep better. Gradually, lost shortness of breath and the pulse returned to normal. However, the hardest part was yet to come. When my father was discharged, he came home and asked for steaks. We steamed the meat again, and when Dad sat down at the table, his mood fell. He refused to eat at all and went to the room. In the middle of the night, we heard a noise in the kitchen. He was looking for his chocolates. When he saw me, he started shouting that he was hungry, that I was trying to starve him, that I wasn't feeding him, and so on. My mother and I had to calm him down for a long time. We spent most of the night talking, explaining that it was time for all of us to eat right. My father was very angry. As a result, he did not eat for almost 2 days. He did not have the strength left. I brought food on a tray, and he pushed it aside. Then I sat down next to him and asked him to try for me. I once again told him that we kill ourselves every day, and if he doesn't stop, we'll only get worse. Only after a week of persuasion, he still agreed. We cooked every day, and every time it was different. At first, he spat, and then he got a taste. A week later, he even asked for vegetables and fruit for dessert. We realized that we were more dependent on food, not physiologically, but psychologically. And if we release ourselves, it becomes easier. So we lived for about 6 months, and then I managed to drag my parents to the gym for sports. We began to study together. During the year, we lost a good weight, and my mother's skin became younger. She began to walk more often with my father. He already woke up in the morning to exercise. It was beautiful. If you compare the photo from a year ago and the current one, the difference will be great. And just today, my dad thanked me for making him healthier, just like the rest of us. So I strongly advise everyone to think about what we eat and stop killing themselves with junk food every day. Tell me, did you guys like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video, and don't forget to put likes, share the video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.